Over 5 years, the United States will assemble 1 million Bitcoin, 5% of the world's supply.
That was Cynthia Lummis at the Bitcoin conference revealing the new strategy for the U.S. government to hold 5% of all Bitcoin. But we know what it looks like when a government sells Bitcoin, but we have no idea what it looks like when a government buys Bitcoin. And in this video, I'm going to do the math and reveal what it actually looks like to Bitcoin's price if the U.S. government were to own 5% of all the coins in circulation. And the number at the end is going to have you shook, everybody. And trust me when I say it was a lot higher than what I was expecting. We saw what happened when Germany sold 50,000 Bitcoin. But what is going to happen when governments start adding massive amounts of Bitcoin to their balance sheet? Well, I did the math, everybody, and we're going to break it down to a really easy to understand price increase per Bitcoin metric right now. But if the U.S. government were to own 5% of all Bitcoin, I don't think it stops at the U.S. government. I think there'd be at least 3 other entities that might try to also hold 5% of all Bitcoin. Those 3 other entities are going to be, besides the U.S., I think China could also easily try to hold 5% of all Bitcoin. That is not all, though. I think the rest of Asia, along with the rest of the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Indonesia, and etc., I think they might also try to own another 5%. So now you got 15% taken off the market. And then last but not least, I think the European Union could also try to obtain 5% of Bitcoin. So you got European Union, you got China, the rest of Asia, the Middle East, and the U.S. government all trying to hold 5 million Bitcoin. But what is that math? Well, when we do the math right here, you can see that is going to equal 4.2 million Bitcoin, 420. I don't know how the math ended up like that, folks, but it's not that hard to imagine China wanting to reach U.S. parity, UK and the rest of the European Union also trying to hit that parity, and the Germans, they're going to regret selling their 50,000 Bitcoin. Trust me when I say that. Now, to determine what the buying pressure from these nation states would actually look like if it were to affect Bitcoin's price, I'm using Wall Street as the closest corollary. I think how nation states and sovereign nations will buy Bitcoin will be pretty similar to how a BlackRock or a large Wall Street firm will also buy Bitcoin. They're not just going to spot buy on Coinbase or a small exchange, spike the price. It's going to be a combination to keep the price of accrual as low as possible. They don't want their purchases to affect the markets. And so using Wall Street's data, we're coming up with some numbers. Now, we're going to kind of come up with this formula for Bitcoin's price on the day of ETFs and then 2 months later in the middle of February. And you see when we come to TradingView, this is the day the Bitcoin ETFs launch. It was January 10th. And then we're only going to do about 2 months because that's when you see, when we had strong inflows. We ended up seeing some mixed data in March, and it kind of messes with the numbers here. So I end up coming up with about $58,000. You can see it was a long candle on the last day of February, and coming into the middle gives us close to a 58. So now we start doing some numbers. We had Bitcoin that were inside these ETFs. And here, HODL 15 does a really good job with just breaking it down with this graphic. You see total US ETFs, but that is not the number we're looking for. We're looking for the global ETFs and the effect that'll have on the market. So you can see we launched with 767,666 Bitcoin held inside ETFs. And then by the end of February, 2/29, we ended up with 923,000. So what kind of numbers is that giving us here? You can see here, 767, we launched at about $46,000 per Bitcoin. And then towards the end, they had added 155,000 Bitcoin to the balance sheet, aka Bitcoin taken off the market, and then the price ended up pumping up to 58,000. So we got an increase of $12,000 after adding 155,000 Bitcoin, and that gives us a price increase of about 8 pennies per Bitcoin taken off the market. So what happens if these nation states take 20% of the Bitcoin off the market? Well, you can see that we did the math here. 20% of the 21 million Bitcoin is going to be 4.2 million Bitcoin. So now let's go ahead and multiply that by 8 pennies. So here we go. And this is the price increase I expect for nation states entering in and holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. And then I'm going to show you a picture of you once you see this price increase, everybody. We're talking about an increase of $336,000. And with Bitcoin currently trading at $67,000, if we were to add that to the $336,000, you can see right here, we are looking really, really good with over $400,000 Bitcoin. So if nation states come in, we could easily hit 400K this cycle. It started with El Salvador in 2021, and it looks like Cynthia Lummis is trying to do the same thing with America. And if you're wondering, what does it look like with all these nation states buying all this Bitcoin? How will I react? Well, folks, this might be you. Now, we don't know if Cynthia Lummis is going to be able to execute this plan, but we do know if the GOP wins big in November, it definitely is in the cards. So 400K Bitcoin could be in the cards, folks. That's all we got. And hopefully I'll see you in your diamond-handed Satoshis at the top.